Hello YouTube, it's Bionic Man. If you are a Zelda fan like me and pay attention to Zelda news like me, then you are completely aware of the new game coming out for the Wii U and possibly the NX called Breath of the Wild. Tons of videos have been uploaded showing plenty of gameplay for Breath of the Wild, but not much is known about the main plot. In the trailer, all we understand is that a mysterious voice, possibly Zelda, wakes up Link from a long sleep. So, Link must save the enormous land from a beast named Calamity Ganon, who isn't seen in any other Zelda game, at least not in that form. All we see is Demise, Ganon, which is the pig form, and Ganondorf, the person form. According to some gameplay videos I have found, the voice tells Link that he has been asleep for a long time, 100 years to be exact. During that time, the beast, Calamity Ganon, has been regaining its power and will continue to do so until it can destroy everything. Clearly, in Link's absence, Ganon has took advantage and began rising to his full potential. But why was Link asleep or needing to be resurrected? And where did Ganon come from? Where is this island and why does it look so empty right now? And what happened to the Temple of Time? Okay, we will get to all of that in a moment, but first I would like to point out how much of a genius Shigeru Miyamoto is of planning all this out. He placed Koroks in the game from Wind Waker, shows what appears to be the Bridge of Eldin from Twilight Princess, shows the Master Sword resting in a forest, and has the Skyward Sword statue sitting around. At first glance, it would appear that this game can take place in any of the timelines. But it doesn't, and today I'm going to tell you which one I think it rests in. First, let's address the Koroks problem. Some might say it shows Koroks, so it must take place after Wind Waker, because that's the only timeline where Koroks are. My answer to that is, well, yeah, but no. Think about this. The Koroks are just spirits that took on the form of Koroks and Kokiri. They did not slowly evolve from one to the other. The Great Deku Tree makes this very clear. So, if they wanted to, they could easily take on the form of Koroks in other timelines. Plus, the Wind Waker timeline doesn't leave much room for this game to fit in somewhere. Sometime soon after the events of the Wind Waker, the events of Phantom Hourglass took place, and decades after that, the events of Spirit Tracks took place. In that game, the entire civilization finds a new continent to live on and completely ditches the entire Hyrule aspect of it. There are no Sheikah and there are no Triforce symbols anywhere in Spirit Tracks, unlike Breath of the Wild, so it cannot take place in that timeline. Now, what about the Bridge of Eldin? Well, that's another easy answer. It could very well have been built before Twilight Princess, but we don't go to that part of the land until the game of Twilight Princess. And as for the theory about Breath of the Wild being after Skyward Sword, I don't think that is likely at all. The Kingdom of Hyrule was not established until shortly before Minish Cap, and even then it was still in its very early stages. The Temple of Time is shown in ruin, Link has been asleep for 100 years, and the old man states that the kingdom is in a state of decline, so it simply would not make sense for it to be shortly after Skyward Sword. So, we are limited to two options in the timeline that would make the most sense, either after Twilight Princess or somewhere in the Fallen Hero timeline. Well, in the ending of the trailer of Breath of the Wild, the Master Sword is shown in a forest and is clearly very old and rusty. In gameplay videos I have seen, Link can enter the ruined Temple of Time, but there's no Master Sword, so it must be somewhere in the woods. What happened to the Master Sword at the end of Twilight Princess? It was returned to the Temple of Time. But what happened to the Master Sword in the Fallen Hero timeline? Well, it was found in the woods in Link to the Past, returned to the woods at the end, and found again in Link Between Worlds, and returned to the woods again at the end of Link Between Worlds. But what happened to it after that? In Zelda 1 and Zelda 2, it is never mentioned of, so clearly forgotten in the woods. This would make a lot of sense, for it shows up again all rusted in the woods in Breath of the Wild. So, is Breath of the Wild after Zelda 1 or after Zelda 2? First, let me point out how big the overworld is in Zelda 2. It's huge in comparison to Link. But you know what else is huge? No, not that. Breath of the Wild's overworld. But here's another point. What's the goal in Zelda 2? Link's only job is to find the pieces of the Triforce once again to wake up Zelda from her cursed sleep. During this quest, Ganon's minions are sent to go after Link to get his blood in order to resurrect Ganon. Here's a direct quote from the Zelda Dungeon website explaining the story of Zelda 2. At the time, Ganon's underlings were calling up new allies from the underworld and were beginning to work devilishly towards the revival of Ganon. At the end of Zelda 2, Link wakes up Zelda and nothing else. The end. However, when you get a game over in Zelda 2, the screen shows Pig Ganon with the caption, Return of Ganon. Ganon comes back if Link dies, no questions asked. So, am I saying the timeline splits in Zelda 2 if Link dies? So that Breath of the Wild takes place in the split timeline where he dies? Much like Ocarina of Time? Well, no, and here's why. Unlike Ocarina of Time, Link never defeated Ganon in Zelda 2. Thus, Ganon is never officially destroyed, his resurrection is only prevented. It literally says this exact phrase in the official timeline. For this reason, I personally believe Zelda Breath of the Wild takes place long after the events of Zelda 2, where the Zelda 2 Link could have possibly been killed, Ganon takes control because he received his blood, and the Sheikah look to revive the killed Zelda 2 Link. So that's my theory on the timeline placement for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I hope you all enjoyed. Tell me what you think on the timeline placement of Breath of the Wild in the comments section below, and I will see you all next time.